Hi there, welcome. I'm Bob Thompson and I'd like to welcome you to the Philanthropic Planner program. We've put this program on for about 8.5 years now, and the reason for that craziness is we think it's important to have in the community meaningful dialogue about philanthropy and the importance of philanthropy to the community, to the state, the region, nationally, internationally. Philanthropy is all around us, and we take it for granted in many respects. But this program, we kind of design it to have meaningful dialogue about philanthropy. You don't have to be a multi-millionaire to be a philanthropist. We can express our philanthropy in a lot of different ways, not just with dollars, but volunteering, which is a great part of our nonprofit sector, the independent sector. We need to talk about philanthropy in the context of everyday dialogue, friends, associates, neighbors, family, and it's a boring subject. It's like being on an airplane and sitting next door to, or next seat to someone. What do you do? I sell life insurance and I'm going to change my seat. Or you're an attorney, huh? Well, I don't want to talk to you. Philanthropy has that air about it. Maybe we should change the word philanthropy, but it is significant, it has absolute meaning and importance to the community, and we just need to talk about it more. So welcome to the Philanthropic Planner. It's designed for you and me as philanthropists and for philanthropic planners, attorneys, accountants, financial planners, life insurance representatives, and so on, trust officers. We need to cross some bridges here. We need to bridge the gap between some of these silos, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But we usually start off with the Chronicle of Philanthropy current issue, and this particular issue, if you happen to see, is their annual survey of the top 400 charities. Now, the top 400 charities represent about 25% of the total gifts, donations in the year. Last year, for example, over $330 billion gifted. And if we looked at these top 400, the largest, I think that would represent about 25% of that total. Significant gifts, meaningful, and when you go through the list of the 400, names that are familiar to you and me pop out, and we see those, and I'd like to talk about some of those. But before I get into that, I'd be remiss, I usually do this later, and I struggle with the title of these programs sometimes, and I don't have a prop and I don't have a guest this week, so I apologize. But you know, we need to have a title that's meaningful. In this particular program, we're saying you can do more. You can do more that matters. And the sub on that is philanthropy is just a part, just one part of planning. So we'll come back to that, but you can do more is the title of this program. Now back to the top 400 charities. We have some, I think, not startling, but surprising results over the last year, the last couple years. We seem that it looks like these charities continue, and the writers about philanthropy continue to compare gifting today with gifting in 2007. So how have charities responded? How have they benefited? What's been their success since 2007? That seems to be the benchmark that we're comparing. And we have about half of the top 400 charities, excuse me, that have had increases since 2007. And we have 88 out of this 400 that have no growth at all, none since 2007. Now, that's a long time for an organization to fund staffs and to fund the missions and provide the services that they provide for the community, and have no increase in their donation and revenue. So as we have this increase in the demand and in the need for these services, and it's being pressured downward by fewer tax dollars on all levels, affecting a number of charities. So we've talked about this in the past, where the demand is greater, and we're concerned about keeping up to date with you can do more that matters. And if we look at number one last year, it continues to be number one for a number of years, and that's United Way. And last year, United Way received $3.9 billion. But number two is kind of surprising. And we've seen this trend with this particular organization over the last few years. And they've come up from 5 or 6 to number 2 last year, and that's the Fidelity Charitable Fund, the largest donor advised fund. And we think maybe not this year, perhaps not even next year, but I would think that if we continue on this trend that we're observing, that Fidelity Charitable Fund may surpass the annual giving of United Way. So we're kind of looking at that for a lot of different reasons. Some people criticize that or the Fidelity program, and programs like Fidelity, Schwab, and a number of other organizations have a donor advised fund, an umbrella, if you will, of different charitable accounts in these donor advised funds. But criticism, certainly when we have success like that, a lot of people refer to the Fidelity account as the rich person's foundation. And we know that IRS has approved on a tax-exempt basis about 120,000 private foundations. Private foundations are expensive to maintain, and the donor advised fund doesn't have the related costs that a private foundation does. And Fidelity's success in their charitable fund is due partly from these very, very large $1 million plus gifts into the donor advised fund. And their increase last year, unlike some of the others, was a 33% plus over the previous year, and the previous year was 50%. So we see this great growth and experience that they're having. The other criticism is that the large donor advised funds are private tax strategies, that I have $1 million, $10 million, $20 million I can put into the donor advised fund in a given tax year, have the benefits of that charitable contribution, but not have the grants go out as quickly as what we might like them to go out. But we're seeing, and I use Fidelity's again, we're seeing a trend where more grant money and to the 7-figure grants coming out of these donor advised funds, a la similar to the private foundations. So when we look at IRS and tax-exempt organizations, there are 1,600,000 approximately tax-exempt organizations. Of the and that all comes under the 501 section in the code. But a 501c3 is the one that we're most familiar with, and there are 1.1 million 501c3s on the IRS's books. Now, we don't count in that 1.1 about 300,000 religious organizations, tax exempt, yes. Some of them file with IRS, but a large number of the religious organizations do not. Recall last year at this time, IRS was kind of putting clamps on the smaller charitable organizations, those under $25,000, not in revenue, but $25,000 in their pocketbook. And if they haven't filed in the last 3 years with the IRS, they would lose their tax exemption status. Well, about 300,000 organizations did, in fact, lose their tax exempt status. A number of that group have since refiled applications. So when the dust settles, we'll find out what the net figure is. Now, any given year, IRS receives about 50,000 applications new applications for tax exempt status. It's been as low as maybe 40,000 and as high as 60 or 70,000, but I think about an average of 50,000 per year. Not all of them are accepted, but we see that 1.6 million is not a small number. Now, back to the 400, when we look at Salvation Army, when we look at Cancer Society, American Lung, all of the large organizations receiving hundreds of millions of dollars. But it doesn't take long to get down in that list to find out that, $20 million, $40 million, still a lot of money, but out of 1.1 million, there are not a lot of organizations in that category. Now, one more thing about Fidelity, and I'm not paid by Fidelity, don't get me wrong, but I find that these larger organizations are getting pressure to do more to encourage donors to grant or to leverage the sheer size of their program. Fidelity, for example, has collaborated on the tech side. We know that tech, either social networking or whatever, is being an influence on generating gifts and revenues for nonprofits, and some organizations have jumped on the bandwagon there rather quickly. Others are sure, they're not sure of Facebook and Twitter and some of these social networking, but the collaboration of Fidelity in creating a widget, Donor Advise or DAF Direct, where the charity can have their icon or what have you, their charity on this widget, and you can have your donor advised fund grant directly to that charity. I'll give you a quick example, the Pan Mass Challenge, and we've talked about that in the past. We've had a number of our clients at Sage Financial participate in RIDE, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 riders. I think that this past August, that figure was even greater, with a goal of $40 million. Now, Pan Mass Challenge benefits the Jimmy Fund at Dana-Farber, and the figures are staggering. They've raised over $400 million by 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 riders, and probably half that number, 3,000 volunteers. An incredible organization logistically and providing water and food and the route and the safety precautions and so on. Pan Mass Challenge is an example of a charitable effort and raising a lot of money for the good. and in this case, the Jimmy Fund at Dana-Farber. Now, let me come back time-wise. You Can Do More is the title. I received yesterday a book from Greg Hammond, and I believe Greg was on our program as a guest about a year ago. And Greg has been working on a book, and I just received that yesterday, and we have to give him credit for the title of our program today, You Can Do More That Matters. Greg's put a lot of effort and time into this book, and his co-author here, Ron Ware, who's an attorney, and both of these gentlemen are financial planners. And I'd like to spend a few minutes on Greg's book and the underlying message that Greg and Ron have in their book. You Can Do More That Matters. Obviously centered focused on philanthropy. Philanthropy is just one part of planning. So the significance of this book in my mind, and what I gravitated to here, is a mission that I've been on for over 20 years now, and that is bridging, and I mentioned silos earlier in the program, the nonprofit sector and the financial planning sector, and communicating between these two silos and benefiting the client of the planner and the donor of the nonprofit, the same person, the client and the donor. But we need to have more meaningful communication between these two groups. And I think Greg and Ron have done a nice job with You Can Do More That Matters by first talking about the significance and the importance of philanthropy, how philanthropy, and we have significant data and experience in the people who give, the people that want to give back to the community in some form. They receive a lot of satisfaction in doing that, and their lives are enhanced and greater in many respects. I read in the Chronicle, for example, a family, and maybe we'll talk about that more in another program, but they gifted hundreds of thousands of dollars to a foundation for education in an African country. And they did this for years and years. And finally, they decided our family can get by with annual income of X amount, and they gifted 99% of their corporation to the foundation. 99%. Now, this is a very viable, profitable corporation, but as long as they receive their annual income from the corporation as officers and so on, that ownership was insignificant compared to the benefit that the corporation could provide to the foundation. So Greg, talking about the significance of philanthropy and it being a part of planning. And a big part of the message from the book is that that philanthropists just don't happen overnight. It evolves. It's a value factor. And how do I express? How can I get this degree of self-significance by being a contributor and giving back to the community? So a big part of this message here is to do financial planning on any level, a basic level, a more advanced level, and so on. So I credit Greg and his effort here in You Can Do More That Matters by bridging these two silos, these two entities, this gap of philanthropy is just one part of planning. I'd like to tie in another aspect of what's happening. And today, I have to tell you, is Halloween. And I couldn't get a volunteer, couldn't get somebody to come in as Boo the friendly ghost. Last year, Ellie refused to. She just had a baby here. In fact, just 1 year birthday, and she tore up her artist card and said that she would not be Boo the ghost again. And no one in the office has volunteered either. But when you see this this program, I will probably have eaten more candy that we didn't give out tonight. But the people in Boston, when you see this, they're probably still dancing because last night they won the World Series, and in the next 2 or 3 weeks they'll still be dancing. But I just thought it's Halloween, it's Boo the Ghost, but I want to tie in something else with you. I've been asked to participate in a Connecticut Plan Giving Group meeting on a panel and talking about retirement. Now, this should be no great revelation or what have you of the importance of talking about retirement to clients and donors, the same people. But here, the program chairman is thinking of the importance of talking about retirement. What do people, client and donors, what do people, what are they concerned about? How can we get client and donor to the point where they realize after planning, financial planning, legal documents and so on, after this to recognize their capacity to do more. The book, You Can Do More That Matters, but it has to resonate in what matters to you, and I will give and support monetarily to this charity that I'm concerned with. When we talk about client and donor, what are they concerned with? Well, things really haven't changed in the last 5, 10, 20 years. One or two exceptions, but what are people concerned with today? We find in the planning area longevity. We're living longer. And what comes hand in hand with that, can I outlive my nest egg? Will I run out of money? And if we went back 5 or 10 or 15 years ago, that happened to be in the top 1 or 2 or 3 concerns of people that we visited with. And it remains today. Can I outlive my money? I'm afraid of the market. What happens if we have another correction and so on and so on? I'm living longer, and it may be a spouse, surviving spouse. Can we outlive our money? What's number 2? What are we concerned with? And it ties in running out of money, but what happens if I need a lot of my nest egg for assisted care or nursing home care or what have you? The concern there. Certainly, things haven't changed with respect to this enemy of money, inflation, taxes, the cost of doing these things. That hasn't changed at all, but outliving my money, yes. Now, if we're talking to clients and donors, pre-retirement, at retirement, post-retirement, we have perceived or real needs to care for, and we have to periodically go back and review, is my plan on time? Do I need to tweak my plan in any way? But from the development side, the donor and the client, we're really looking at do I have capacity? Do I have the capacity to do more? Well, Greg in his book says very well, you can do more that matters. And we can be a philanthropist during life, annual giving. We can be a philanthropist at death through our wills and bequests and so on. What's the other remaining concern of a lot of these people, client and donor, after can I outlive my nest egg? It's one of legacy. It's one of I want to leave something to my family. The legacy in dollars is in people's minds, and I don't think that's changed much at all. But leaving a legacy to family, to children and grandchildren and so on, leaving a legacy doesn't have to be dollars. It can be this, this transition, this transformation, this sharing of values to the next generation or generations. And that is a true legacy, and Greg refers to that in his book. So you can do more that matters. It's just that we need to communicate better. We need to talk about the client in the client's context. We need to talk about the donor in the donor's context. But we need to bridge this gap communication-wise so that we're all communicating and we're all on the same page. I've mentioned the CAP designation, the Charter Advisor in Philanthropy, and that is designed for the nonprofit professional and the advisor. The same designation, and a lot of that course work is to share what the other group is doing, how they communicate, what are their concerns, what's the nature of their business. So if we look at you can do more that matters, if you can relate to your needs and relate to the fact that philanthropy is just one part of financial planning, and it's after meshing these together, if you will, that we find out that we can do more, and we can do more that matters by this process. In the meantime now, I'm going to probably take advantage of some of the things that we didn't give out, and if you came by the house, or if you come by tonight, and you won't get this particular Reese Cups because I will have eaten it before you got here. Thanks. Come back again. We'll see you the next time.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.